Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about relationships, both friendships as well as intimate. Now, I was thinking about this subject the other day and an idea popped into my head. Is it possible that some people may not even have the software to be in a healthy, loving relationship? At the very least, maybe their operating system isn't compatible with ours. Now, let's think about it. How does one learn how to be in a relationship? I would argue, and many psychologists would agree with me, that most people learn by modeling what they witnessed in their home. Our parents and our caregivers are the most influential people in our young life. They set the example during our most formative years. If our parents didn't model a healthy relationship, where did we learn how to be in one? Where did we learn healthy communication and problem resolution? How are we taught to deal with conflict and the differences that come up between people? Did our parents raise us to be accountable for our words and our actions? Did they teach us empathy and the ability to see the world through someone else's lens? How did our parents teach us to show love and affection? Did we learn the give and take that should occur in relationships? If we didn't learn this at home, where do you think we learned it? Do you think people are just born knowing these things? If people were born knowing how to do things, then explain to me why it takes 18 years to raise a kid. Teaching them through modeling, rewards, and correction, the difference between right and wrong, and teaching them what is socially acceptable behavior. Now, I don't see a lot of people sitting around reading books on relationships and communication. Usually when they pick up a book on the subject or they seek counsel, it's when the relationship is either headed for the iceberg or it's already crashed and the ship is taking on water. I don't see a lot of examples of healthy relationships on TV or in the movies because that's just not as interesting as watching two people go at it like cats and dogs. So if they didn't see it at home and they're not seeing it in the media, where do you think they learned about how to be in a relationship? The answer is they probably didn't. At best, maybe they're fumbling around in the dark hoping to find a light switch. And guess what? It's not our job to teach them the basics, nor is it our job to suffer their shortcomings. Now, don't get me wrong, we all have defects and quirks and things that make each and every one of us a bit of a challenge to deal with at times. We all have our dents and dings and imperfections. I'm no different. But there is a difference between a quirk or a defect and a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw is a deficit that has the capacity to do serious damage, if not derail the entire relationship. My mother used to say that some people don't get it, and they never will. Whether they refuse to acknowledge their issues, or they don't see it as a problem, or they just don't have the will or desire to change. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. The reasons why don't matter. All you need to know is that this is a part of the package, and you will need to determine whether or not you would like that to be a part of your life. Now, understand, the more red flags and the more warning bells that sound, trust me, there is much more beneath the surface. Stuff their own psyche has suppressed and buried deep down under their consciousness. There can be multiple hidden layers that they have learned to conceal. It's like the game of Jenga. Pull the wrong peg out and the whole thing's going to collapse. During our dating careers, most people quickly learn what sorts of issues will run off a potential romantic partner. Run them off faster than telling them that they have an incurable, highly contagious social disease. But as intelligent and well-meaning as this person may be, eventually their upbringing and their past experiences are going to start to come to the surface. By the time we figure out that there are some serious issues at play, we're already neck deep in the relationship. We've already developed feelings for this person, we don't want to hurt them, and we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But understand, the amount of energy that will be required to keep this doomed from the start relationship going is probably energy that would be much better spent looking for a healthier partner. Someone who already comes with the basic software and at least most of the updates on how to be in a relationship. I'd recommend taking a close look at this person's family, because that's the hardware, i.e. the genetics, where they came from, and the software is how they were raised. Unfortunately, if you find yourself with a partner who has a serious defect in their hardware or software, it's not as simple as calling out the geek squad. You're going to be on your own and likely in over your head. And to keep up with this analogy, the older people get, the less willing they are to learn a new way. Just like your computer system. If it's old and out of date, it may not even have the ability to download the new software updates. In psychology, this concept is called brain plasticity, which is the ability for the brain to adapt in form and function. That's why it's easier to learn a foreign language when you're young, before the brain becomes hardwired. The same thing with relationships. If you have to tell a grown adult how to treat another human being, it's probably a hill that you don't want to be climbing. Just wish them well and be glad that you dodged a bullet. If you do get entangled with them and you think you can save them or lead them to the promised land, best of luck to you. My advice, cut your losses and move on. It reminds me of the Three Stooges episode, where they're all stranded out in a tiny little sailboat out at sea, and it's taking on water. So Moe grabs the bucket and he's bailing out the water. Meanwhile, Curly's on the other end of the boat with a drill, putting holes in the bottom of the boat. Moe sees this and he's furious. He asks Curly, what's he doing? Curly replies, he's drilling holes in the bottom of the boat to let the water out. Curly thought he was helping when he was actually sinking the boat faster. That's a great analogy for these types of relationships. Some people just don't have the tools to be in a relationship. They're completely oblivious, or they're at peace with their deficits and defects, which makes it impossible for them to be in harmony with their partner. I've spent a lot of time analyzing some of my past relationships, and while I'm not perfect by any means, I do understand that many of them were doomed from day one. There was nothing that could have been done to change the outcome. All of my efforts and compromises and attempts to connect and relate to them, it just simply delayed the inevitable. So don't waste the time and suffer the heartache trying to save someone or show them a better way. Don't delude yourself into thinking that if you just love them enough, somehow things are going to get on track. I really believe that people are doing the best they can with what they have. But recognize that even with the best of intentions and our best efforts, we can still fall short. Like I said in my first video, quote, people can't give you what they don't have, end quote. Some people simply don't have the programming. They may be capable of a good time or a friendship, maybe a friends with benefits, but that's it. As the Reverend Jonathan Smith said over 200 years ago, quote, you cannot make a silk purse from a sow's ear. Now, can these people get better? Yes, I would like to think anyone can change, but I was raised to think the best of others, see the good in people. But understand that change requires a lot of work and effort that few people are willing to put in. It's not our job to fix people. It has to come from within, and people have to do it for themselves. If you don't see them doing the work and making the change, then guess what? You will be the one that needs to change. You will need to adapt yourself to make this relationship work. And that will come at the expense of who you are. Remember, dysfunctional people cannot come into your world. You will have to go into theirs. And if they do come into your world, they will also bring their dysfunction with them. And with that said, again, new content drops every Wednesday. Thank you for joining me, and have a great night.